Praise the Lord, everybody. I'm Bishop Douglas White, and you're listening to the Ministry Matters podcast. Last week, for the first time ever, we had a special treat because my wife joined me on the podcast, and we discussed something that was very near and dear to her heart. She helped me as we discussed the subject of children, how your ministry affects them. Join us today as we discuss this important topic on Ministry Matters. Hello, everybody. This is Bishop Douglas White, and you're listening to the Ministry Matters podcast. This is a space designed for callings to be clarified, character to be cultivated, commitments to be deepened. God bless you. Let's talk about matters that pertain to your ministry. It's sad, but there are some people whose mentality is trapped in that arena.
And that it is very sad, because what it does is in time it wears that child down.
Absolutely.
To where it's like, what's the use? And another way that we've encountered that has been a huge challenge, and that we did growing up even, is that there are others that sometimes it's the grown adults that do it, sad to say, but that will try to bait you as the preacher's kid, trying to get information out of you, and you are the innocent party here, and you're just answering their questions, not really realizing what they're doing as they come in that back door, trying to figure out what's being done and what's being said, and give them information that could be used to discredit your parents. Oh, your dad did this. Oh, your dad said that. Oh, your mother. And so what happens lots of times is when those people do that and your mom and dad find out and they're like, why did you say anything? And you're like, they just asked me a question, so I just answered it, not realizing, because of the innocence of a child.
Sure.
You don't think that mature as a child. And those kind of people realize that, and they know that. You just have to protect your kids. You have to warn your children. Be there when there's nobody else there.
Absolutely. I remember years ago, again, we never had a lot of problems with people trying to attack our kids here. I've got a very good church, and I will tell anybody that's listening, whether you're ministry or you've tuned into this and you're not ministry, shame on you if you try to rip information out of preachers' kids. Most of the time, preachers' kids don't know anything about what others are asking them about, because in our world, I wanted our kids to think that our church was the greatest thing in the world, and at times it was the greatest thing in the world. Then there were other times that we had challenges. We had a group out playing ball one day, and when they were playing ball, my son hit a foul ball, and it went over the fence, bounced on the road, and went up and hit the bumper of a car. Didn't do any damage to the car. There was no problems. But an individual came up to my son and said, now, I don't want to tattle on you. I don't want to go tell your dad that you hit that car. That'll be our secret. But I want you to know, if you know anything else that you think, is something you don't agree with, or something that happens in your home, I want you to come tell me. And we just don't do that. And what's funny, especially, it was my older son. My older son, he couldn't do anything wrong without telling on himself. And he said, well, I don't have a problem with you telling my dad I accidentally hit that car. It's sad that people do that, that people will try to utilize, they wouldn't say a thing to the preacher, but they'll come after their kids. I've seen it. I hate it. I was a visiting minister, and I had my son with me at a meeting one time, and the son and his pastor's daughter was playing in the church. I was waiting for the pastor to get out of the office, sat in a little conclave where they couldn't see me, but there was an individual in leadership in that church that had an issue with the pastor's daughter. And because he knew the pastor's daughter was very close to my son, he walked in and saw the two sitting there and took it upon himself to start attacking this pastor's daughter, calling her names and accusing her of all kinds of stuff. And the look on his face while he was trying to embarrass her in front of her friend, when I stepped out from around that corner to see who in the world would be talking to the pastor's kid like that who hadn't done a thing wrong, I was there. And when he saw me, all of a sudden his complete tune changed. And, I was just kidding. And suffice it to say, I had much to say that day. But that leads us to another area that is unfortunately painful for some preachers' kids. I've seen more than one preacher's kid have a front row seat where they had to watch somebody that wanted to come after their parent and would come after them in the process. And usually, their parents have taught them that they're not allowed to hate those individuals that would love to destroy their own family that God sent them to reach. And those that listen to this Ministry Matters podcast who have children, surely all of you share the very same concern. We've discussed the benefits of being a preacher's kid. We've discussed the challenges of being a preacher's kid. But surely, as a parent called into ministry, who's also a parent leading children they love and want the best for, probably one of the most important things that can be discussed is simply things parents can do to help their preacher's kids survive spiritually. All of you ministers, wives, let us give you some things that you can do that's going to help these preachers' kids survive spiritually, because the reality is blatantly obvious. A lot of preachers' kids don't survive. I've been in this church for over 38 years, pastoring this place. During that 38 years, at last count, we had somewhere around 40 backslidden pastors' kids pray back through in our church, and most of them are back out in ministry right now. And for that reason, all of us, everybody listening to this podcast, and I'm sure my beautiful wife sitting here beside me, again, she's had friends, close friends, that walked away from it all because people had forgotten how to protect their children, help them survive spiritually. So, again, I'm going to go back to my wife and ask her, let's talk about some ways, and surely you should be an expert at this because you've raised 3 great kids, raised in a pastor's home. All of them lived for God until one of them got married and walked away. Here's the question. How do they protect their kids? How do they help them to survive spiritually?
Well, if I can go back to something that I said earlier, make sure that your children know that it's a privilege to be used of God. It's not a drudgery. It's not a job. It is a privilege. And involve your kids. Make sure they know that they are a part of.
Absolutely.
They're not just brought along because they are my child, so I have to take them with me.
Expound on that a little bit.
Let them know that, you know what? This is your job too. This is your calling. When we were growing up, we did it all. We was the music. We was the teachers. We were the everything. But in all of it, we still knew that it was our calling. As a family, we were called. We were privileged. It's a privilege that God counted your family worthy.
Absolutely.
He didn't just call mom and dad because he saw something in them. He knew that down the road, there was going to be some girls that was going to be born, that he was going to use them. When I look at all of us, we're all involved. Every one of us are involved and have been for years and years and years. This is all we've known. This is all I've ever known. This is all I would have ever wanted to know. And it was a privilege to us. And my mother and our dad let us know that it was a privilege and that he counted us worthy to be used of him. It's a privilege that God blessed us with ministry that can make a difference in a lost soul. When I would invite somebody from school to church and see that person come, and I would get to witness to them, and they would ask me questions as to why, Pam, why do you do that? Pam, why don't you do that? Why don't you go there? Why don't you do these things? And I was able to tell them I wasn't ashamed. I wasn't embarrassed. It was a testimony because it was my life. It's what I lived. And if people realized that it was a privilege, it'd be a lot harder to feel like they somehow had been cheated.
To that end, you mentioned it earlier. Your mom and dad let you know that it wasn't just their ministry.
Absolutely.
It was your ministry. I know through the years, in a lot of my travels, a lot of the things that we would do, uh, we we'd go off preaching camps, doing this, that, and the other, and our family was involved. Our family was up to their necks because I wanted my kids to know that it was not my ministry. It was our ministry. And if the whole family couldn't go, I was preaching a camp or a conference or something when my kids were younger. If my whole family couldn't go, I'd take one of my kids because it was just that important to me that all of them knew this is not my ministry, this is our ministry. And ironically, every one of my children spoke to me, and even my grandsons have spoke to me about feeling a call into ministry while we were off ministering somewhere else. It was our ministry.
And I'm thankful that there are times that there were little perks. There was a little extra things that people that we preached for, camps that we went to, they made our kids feel special. They done extra little things for them. And that always is always an added blessing because it lets them know, hey, somebody noticed me for me. Somebody noticed me because I am what I am. Another thing that will help safeguard your kids in ministry is to simply realize it's your job to protect them. You need to protect them. You need to make sure that they are taken care of. Don't put them in situations that they don't belong in. Don't use them as an example. Protect those children from the time they're little till the time they leave your home and they're gone and married. Protect them. Protect their spiritual life. Protect their home life. Let their home life be as normal as it can be. I tried my best. It was time for supper. It was time for homework. It was time for church. And I tried to make sure we got back home and it was time to go to bed and start a whole nother day. But I tried to protect them from not just the world, but sometimes people in the church. You have to protect them. You asked to be used of God, but being used of God includes first protecting that child that you're dragging along with your ministry. So don't expect more out of them than you do other kids in your church. They are a saint, just like the rest of them. So try to make their life normal. Try to make them feel like I'm living life, and this is the best life I could ever live. God's got me living my best life. And another way to safeguard your kids in ministry is to protect those that would beat down their confidence in God's church. Let them know that God's church is the best thing that there is. It is a refuge. The church is a refuge. Protect them from being bullied by other disgruntled saints because they will bully them. Just like they get bullied at school, bullied in the world, there's people sometimes in the church that will bully. So protect them from being bullied by other egotistical leaders of the church, saying, I'm the leader, I am over you, and you will do what I say, or I'm going to go tell your dad. I've heard that so many times. And you know what? They're just normal kids. They're normal people, just like the next guy. So learn to safeguard them, protect them, and keep them. Let them know that they are special in your eyes, just as special as they are in God's. Protect them from being bludgeoned by constant barrage of church problems. They don't need to hear everything that goes on bad at the church. Let them hear some good stuff. Sure, there's going to be things that you need to discuss, especially if your family is ministry like most of our family is. And lots of times our suppers turn into planning sessions. But don't destroy the confidence of your children towards God's church. Let them realize that God's church is the best thing going.
Absolutely. I think it's one of the greatest assets to our ministry when we see our kids that want to be involved in ministry. It's one thing that you touched on earlier when you kept saying that it's not a drudgery. This is not a mark against you. I've done many PK conferences. We call them PK conferences, preachers' kid conferences around the world. I'll never forget going to one whose father was a official. And when we begin to talk to them, begin to minister in that meeting, I seen that there was something troubling her. Had no idea that that young lady had been contemplating hurting herself simply because she said she was miserable being in a pastor's home. Well, the problem for her misery was that she was wanting to connect with a young man that was not remotely in the church and instead fought against the church. But once that young girl realized that there were people out there that were going to love her and help her, that her conservative-minded mother and father were not evil taskmasters, it changed her world, and she ended up becoming greatly used of God herself, married a man who's got a great ministry. But these are the kind of things that you have to be mindful of. We've got to protect these kids. And again, I don't know any young people that woke up one morning. Now, I'll be honest enough to tell you that there have been times I've considered where I came from, considered how I lived, and I kind of wish that I had been born in a preacher's home, or at least somebody that was in the church, because so many things that I had to deal with to come to God. But then I look at the challenges some of these preachers' kids have, and it makes me very mindful that there's challenges in every camp, but you have a call of God on your life. And the Bible still says, what does it profit if you gain the whole world and lose your own soul? I'll take that a step further. What good does it do to win the entire city that God has sent you to and lose your own children because you refuse to do a few things to safeguard their lives? They didn't ask to be put in that position. God saw fit to put them in that position, but he also saw fit to make you their parent. And that means loving them. That means reaching them. That means caring for them.
I'm thankful that all three of our children are involved in ministry. I feel like we done something right. God helped us do something right when it came to our three. And they all wanted to be involved in ministry. This is the life that they wanted. And I'm thankful that we lived that before them. Were we always perfect? Absolutely not. Was my parents always perfect? Absolutely not. But I'm thankful that I was shown before me, in front of me, what it was and how important the church and God's people are and were. And I feel like that we showed that to our kids, to where they are involved, all three of them differently and yet alike. But I'm glad that they are now showing it to theirs. And there is no greater blessing than to know that your children walk in truth. And not only do they walk in it, but they live in it. They work in it. It is their life. And I'm thankful that I've had this opportunity because, like I said, this is not my wheelhouse. But I am thankful that, and I hope and pray that somewhere in all of this that we have said something that has helped encourage somebody to know that you're doing the right thing. Keep doing what you're doing. Your kids are going to get it and they're going to live it. They're going to want it. They do want it. They just got to be showed sometimes the right path.
Absolutely. Another thing that she touched on earlier, how old was your dad when he came into the ministry?
Into the ministry, he was in his mid-30s.
Mid-30s.
He was 28 when he came into the church. And I wasn't quite born yet. So 6 years later, then he was called to preach.
And he was, so what, 34?
Yeah.
And then at what age did he pass away?
Dad was 77 when he passed away.
So 43 years, I think. 43 years. He led his family. My wife's got sisters older than her. 43 years. He led that family. He loved ministry. And one of the things that I think was so beneficial is in 43 years, I don't know that I ever knew of your dad changing on one thing.
Oh, no, absolutely not. He was rooted and grounded, and he lived the book.
Yeah.
The book, he backed the book, and the book backed his life. That's the way it was.
It's extremely hard for them to see you in the right perspective as a minister if they see you changing your beliefs according to whatever fads are out there. I don't ever recall in 30 some odd years him ever changing one thing, but consequently, that's bled down to you. And now it's bled down to your children. And it makes my life a better place. Is there anything else?
No, sir. I believe I've covered it all.
Trust me, you ain't covered it all. There's plenty more that will show up. And I guarantee you, if they would respond to this podcast with messages or emails, you'd get a lot of other perspectives. But God's been good to us. God's been good to my wife. God's been good to the children she and I have had. Now I've got 3 son-in-laws in the ministry, 2 sons and a son-in-law in the ministry. I got 2 grandsons that feel like they're called into ministry. And after today, my wife may be called into ministry. I'm not sure. God bless you. We are so thankful today that you've tuned in to us, to the Ministry Matters broadcast. I love you. I appreciate you. And listen again. We're coming back with more topics just like this on the Ministry Matters podcast.